Okay, gentlemen, rules for multiplication. This stuff we've talked about. This stuff down here, you know that. We'll just review that in a moment. This stuff up here we talked about, I think, a little bit last year. But let's go through this. The multiplicative identity is the number 1. The number 1 is called the multiplicative identity. Okay? The identity property of multiplication says that when you multiply a number by 1, it keeps its identity. It doesn't change. That's why 1 is the multiplicative identity. But Will, what's the additive identity? If 1 is the multiplicative identity, what's the additive identity? Not negative 1, because that would change a number if I added negative 1 to it. How does it keep its identity? What's the additive identity, Troy? 0, right? Because if I add 0, the number keeps its identity. If I multiply by 1, it keeps its identity. All right, that's what these two things are talking about. Now, the multiplicative property of 0 is just saying if you multiply a number by 0, that means you have none of those numbers. So you have 0, right? Anything I multiply by 0 is 0. And the multiplicative property of negative 1 means that the absolute value stays the same, but its sign changes. Okay, and remember, absolute value is a distance from 0. So other than 0, every distance has two numbers. 3 units has 3 and negative 3. 9 units has 9 and negative 9. Those are both have an absolute value of 9 units from 0. Okay? Guys, rules for multiplication. If the signs are the same, the answer is positive. If the signs are different, the answer is negative. Okay? If, and this is a key one down here, if you have more than 2 numbers being multiplied, Curran, count the number of negatives, and if you have an odd number of negatives, the answer is negative. If you have an even number of negatives, the answer is positive. Okay? Now, we'll get to that in just a minute, but let's look at these simple little things and go ahead and just solve those quickly. This first one says 4 times 7. Jackson, 4 times 7.
28.
Thank you, 28. Beautiful. Negative 4 times 7. Devin. Negative 28. 4 times negative 7, Gordy. Negative 28. And then negative 4 times negative 7, Hugh.
28.
Positive 28. Now, guys, just before I jump off this example, if the signs are the same, positive times a positive, we get a positive. If the signs are different, negative times a positive, we get a negative. Positive times a negative, we get a negative. And then over here, the signs are the same. They're both negative. Negative 4 and negative 7, we get a positive 28. Okay? All right. Great job, guys. And I will see you at the next example.